Oh yeah, I'm wrong about things sometimes too. Yesterday, Mary sends me this message. It's like, did you know about the typhoon hitting Alaska right now? And I was like, what? Typhoons don't hit Alaska, I said, and kind of dismissed it. Well, I mean, I guess technically the remnants of a typhoon Halong did hit Alaska, and I was a little bit wrong. And there was substantial flooding and quite a story surrounding the effects of it. However, I guess my point still in counter is that it wasn't a typhoon at the time, and it hadn't been for a long time, and it was really just a bunch of moisture that's out in the Pacific that ran into the usual storm building mid-latitude cyclone process that you see in the North Pacific all the time. All right, let's have a look at this nonetheless, though. My apologies, Mary. You are correct. The remnants of Typhoon Halong did hit Alaska, and I need to make a rebuttal because in my video yesterday, I even talked about it and said that no, that can't happen. But it let's go. There it is.
This is bad news. My God! Anything could happen. Get on! Wow!
I'll watch the video later. They climb up in this.
Winds up to 100 miles per hour flipped boats as catastrophic flooding hit coastal communities in western Alaska.
Okay, that's pretty bad.
The Alaska National Guard and the Coast Guard helped rescue more than 30 people as flooding trapped residents in one of the most isolated regions in the U.S. The remnants of Typhoon Halong knocked at least 8 homes off their foundations, and some people were injured by flying debris.
One woman died. 2 people remain unaccounted for after the remnants of Typhoon Halong brought destructive winds and devastating floods to communities on the western Alaska coast over the weekend. Alaska Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management reported winds as high as 100 miles per hour. That's pretty bad. As the storm surges and flooding across several villages like Kipnuk, Quigging, Bethel, Kotzebue and Nome. Oh my. In an update Monday evening, the Alaska State Troopers said the deceased woman was found in Quigilgok. 2 people are unaccounted for. Man, I totally blew this one. I should have practiced that for like an hour. Search and rescue teams, the Alaska Army National Guard, Alaska's Air National Guard, U.S. Coast Guard sent out to the hard-hit villages of Kipnuk and Quigilgok. God, why? Why did it have to be that town? Rescue aircraft had to be used to reach small remote villages. Yeah, Jamie Jenkins, 42, lives among the hard-hit community, described howling winds and fast rising water Sunday morning. Her mother, whose nearby homes shifted on its foundation, a neighbor whose home flooded, came over to Jenkins' place. They tried to wait the storm, she said, but when the waters reached the top stairs, they got in a boat and evacuated the school. Practically the whole community was there. Men in town gathered their boats and went house to house to pick up anybody who was still in their homes. Adeline Pete, who lives in another community, Kotlik, said she'd never experienced winds so strong before. An occupied house flipped over, but she said her family felt safe in their home. In a statement Sunday, Governor Dunleavy said every effort will be made to help those hit by the storm. On Monday, the Association of Village Council Presidents consortium that represents 56 tribes in the regions called the governor to make disaster declaration statewide. They also requested federal funding. So pretty bad, man. Pretty bad. It might be a little overstated, I guess. Like, the media, they're trying to get clicks too. They're trying to get you to click on their thing, and they're trying to make headlines. And I struggle with this because I don't like to make headlines that are like fantastic, that are designed to get clicks, because it seems disingenuous. Yet if I don't do it, then everybody else has these like sensational headlines about something. Well, I have like this reserved one, and I don't get the clicks because everyone's going to go to the... So like it's rewarded, that behavior, right? So I get it. Like, how much of a typhoon was it still at the time it got there? Like, no, it wasn't a typhoon anymore. A typhoon's a powerful rotating tropical storm that forms in the northwestern Pacific Ocean, in the western North Pacific Ocean, I should say, like, as in the northern hemisphere. The same type of weather phenomenon is called a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean and a cyclone in the Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean. So we've seen this often where we have a hurricane come ashore in somewhere like, say, Texas or Florida, and then the remnants of it become a post-tropical low, and they move on through the continent, create a bunch of thunderstorms, sometimes dump a bunch of heavy rain, right? So we see those remnant storms sometimes do this. And now this remnant storm also collided with an area where mid-latitude cyclones are forming on the regular right now. So it just helped to build up a storm pattern we've already had. So it transitioned from a hurricane to a post-tropical low to a mid-latitude cyclone. And it did several different things along the way. So I wasn't wrong when I was like, no, a hurricane didn't hit Alaska. A mid-latitude cyclone did. And I was aware a mid-latitude cyclone did. I guess I just hadn't pieced together that it was the remnants of this typhoon, still the same low-pressure area traversing the ocean, even if it was long since having been a typhoon. The defining difference between a typhoon, a hurricane, and a cyclone is the geographic location. Typhoon resides around the Philippines, Japan, and the China Sea. That's where they feed on the warm water there, the same way a hurricane feeds on the warm water, say, of the Atlantic Basin, the Caribbean, places like that. They derive their energy from the ocean's warm water. They like to have 80-degree water. That's about 26.5 degrees Celsius. The structure of a typhoon is characterized by a central eye of calm, clear weather, like you've seen with a hurricane, with the eye wall and the most intense winds and rainfall going sort of around that, especially in one sector sort of in behind the storm. These intensity would be about 74 miles per hour, 119 kilometers an hour. Super typhoons in the Western Pacific, particularly strong ones, are sometimes categorized that way, super typhoons. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center defines a super typhoon with a storm that has winds of at least 150 miles per hour. That's crazy. In an extratropical low, wind speeds can range from mild breezes to hurricane-force wind gusts exceeding 100 miles per hour. This wide variability depends on the specific storm, which can become a weather bomb or windstorm, sometimes causing significant damage. So they can undergo a process called explosive cyclogenesis, or bombing out, where atmospheric pressure drops rapidly. And this intensification leads to very strong winds in the North Atlantic and Northern Pacific Oceans. Upper level forces, unlike tropical cyclones, which draw energy from the warm ocean waters, extratropical cyclones are powered by horizontal temperature differences, the cold front and the warm front, frontal systems. The strongest winds in these systems are typically higher up in the atmosphere near the tropopause, which is about 8 miles high. Some of the most extreme surface winds in an extratropical cyclone come from a phenomenon called string jet. The string jet's a narrow, fast-moving airstream that descends from mid-troposphere to the surface. They can damage with wind gusts over 110 miles an hour, but are generally shortly lived and highly localized. The specific location and developmental stage of storm influence in its wind speeds, you can more look at this as like a nor'easter, except it's a nor'wester. It's a similar sort of storm, a similar kind of phenomenon that we have here in what just hit Alaska. These are extratropical lows that form off the east coast of the U.S. and can produce hurricane-force winds due to the clash between warm ocean air and cold continental air, the cold air from the Arctic. A post-tropical cyclone is a tropical storm that has transitioned into an extratropical one, which is what happened with this one. It can maintain some pretty powerful wind gusts at times. We've had some great examples of strong extratropical lows, like Hurricane Sandy in 2012 was actually an extratropical low. It wasn't a hurricane. It wasn't doing what a hurricane was doing at that time, but it still had winds that were similar to a Category 1 hurricane. That's why when we have some of these really strong winds off the coast, I'm warning people, hey, like don't think for a second that just because it's another Pacific storm that it can't be particularly brutal at this time of year, where you have very cold air in the north to work with, but very warm air in the south to work with. You add an extra bunch of moisture to help power this thing, to help feed it. And right now in the North Pacific, we can see another one of these similar mid-latitude cyclones that's going on right now. What's going on here is, well, you can see that there is a big-time clash between cold front and warm front. This is a frontal system. You can see the warm air is cycling back up from this. Look at you can see it's pulling warm air up towards its core. 961 central low pressure. That's a very powerful storm. Sure, probably producing hurricane force winds, but they get that all the time there in the Aleutians. They're used to that. Now you can see how cold the air is in behind. Well, look, in Siberia, we got minus 20 air that's available for this thing to feed on. While at the south end of it, it's got plus 22 degree air. So that's like a 42 degree spread of temperatures that's helping to fuel this particular storm that's in Alaska right now, this mid-latitude cyclone. So I don't think I was wrong to kind of balk at the notion that a typhoon was hitting Alaska, because it hadn't been a typhoon for a long time. It had really traveled a long way as just, something similar to this guy here, just like an area of low pressure, that once belonged to a more powerful storm, but no longer was. Anyways, I hope that got the foot out of my friggin' mouth. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Caribou Weather Dude here. I'm an honest guy. If I make an error, I'll own up to it. Why not? Why not, everybody? Okay, we'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.